Hey everybody, welcome back to the Daddy Knows Best channel. We're back at it. I'm happy that my avatar is actually working now, and I'm happy that I've actually figured out how to make this work. Uh, Hope that everybody's having a good time. You're probably out there spending time eating some watermelon, having some nice hot dogs and hamburgers, and probably, you're probably not going to be sitting here watching this with me. But if you have a little bit of time, maybe you'll watch this today or tomorrow. Hope that you have a little bit of free time to think with me and have a little bit of fun. Let me know also, what do you think about the Avatar? I put a lot of work into this. I hope that you enjoy it. So, my friends, with Memorial Day, I'm probably sure that you already know. And let me go over here. And, yeah. Is it still looking good? Yeah, it's still looking good. It's a Memorial Day is about remembering those who have died. It's not about Veterans Day, who are those who are still surviving and those who are still here with us. Now, I don't want to step on any toes, but with America, I haven't felt like I still have the American attitude where I remember the veterans and those who have passed and really fought for freedom. And I'm not over here trying to say that like the Iraq War wasn't about freedom, but there are things that make you think. With us, you know, kind of causing these groups that we fought. We left outposts, we left weapons, we left them with the best armaments to make them stronger than many armies in the entire world. We My friends, we caused a lot of these problems, and then we get distracted by those who want to divide us and those who don't really want to talk facts. It's a really tough thing, isn't it? I think it is. It's a really tough thing to know that behind all of these things that we really caused these some of these problems. I still have lots of gratitude, and there's still many great men and many great people who still fight for a cause, a great cause. But for me, with Memorial Day, I think of all the people who are dying on fentanyl. I think that we leave our borders open, and we are constantly invaded. I think about politicians and those who truly don't have our best interests at heart. So for me, I mean, Memorial Day and even Veterans Day is supposed to be kind of a solemn event, a solemn assembly. But for me personally, it's even a little bit more solemn, I guess you could say, because I can remember the history, I can respect the history, and I can talk about the history. I hope that you do investigate history. History is all but kind of forgotten, getting hard to find, and the upcoming newer generation truly doesn't really know much of any of the history of the U.S., why the U.S. was founded, and many of them think that they are moral, upstanding individuals as they vote and try to fight to get rid of the Electoral College because it's racist, because it's somewhat old. Anything that's somewhat old is quote unquote racist, so therefore it must be removed. Um, I I worry for this country. It's changing dramatically, and when I think about Memorial Day, I don't think that we're living up to the expectations, and I don't think that we're living up to the responsibilities that we have been handed to us, and we haven't been doing it for a while, a couple decades or two. And as far as men, I appreciate their sacrifices and many of the things that they did, but in the past, I can only imagine, a great army. If you were a part of a great army, that built a nation, that protected a nation, and made sure that that nation or that people were safe, and you know, maybe even had conquest. And I'm not over here supporting imperialism, but I can only imagine the feeling of achievement and the successes. And you can have successes and achievement without imperialism or taking over other countries. Um, Today, our politicians and our country works to make us poor. They they have every intention of, making us more vulnerable. I mean, they're not going to change. They're not have no intention of changing the laws to make them fair for men with divorce court and family court. They, I mean, I don't see men truly fighting. Maybe this is a small thing for many of you, but it was a massive thing for me to hear that the U.S. military was giving, gender, this essentially like Marxist and ideology, teaching that to our soldiers, and that you had to use them. I don't think they went as far as forcing soldiers to use certain pronouns, but they were certainly taught and shamed and told to act certain ways, and giving training regarding, that essentially men are bad, and to target, other men, that you as a man hold the original sin. you know in the Christian sense, it's no longer Adam and Eve together committed the original sin and, got to fix things. Now in our current society, it's men, especially if you're straight, and if you're a white straight man, and then especially if you support guns and or anything else, and if you're religious, then you're the devil incarnate. So I don't know. I haven't been showing a lot of video here. I mean, I'm happy just to sit here and have a little bit of a discussion with you. But the thing with, this Memorial Day over here, I think that we can improve things. I think not all is lost, is it? No, it's not. But I think that if we want to survive as a nation, I mean, not only do men need to also address issues that are pressing, like feminism and these people who are trying to destroy masculinity and competition and all kinds of things. I mean, they'll even hunt you down, and they're trying to tear down some of the last bastions of freedom, like video games. Some of the last bastions where people express creative and real original ideas. But I think that we do need to, as men in general, especially if you're quote unquote red pill or quote unquote MGTOW, I don't see people in this quote unquote manosphere talk about Memorial Day really at all, and it troubles me. I think that we as a people, and especially as men, need, I mean, this goes beyond heroes, but a lot of you men also don't read enough and read about men who changed our existence, changed our reality regarding science and technology, and great leaders and great speakers and other great people. So not only do you not invest in learning from the past, of course we look towards the future, but I think a lot of men especially aren't considering, that putting that hope in their mind and their potential, so they don't see the past, or they don't look at the past, and then they also don't think about their principles and the words that were taught, and the lessons to be learned. But there's this complete disconnect, with our ancestors. How many of you know I mean, even got to speak to your grandpa? Or how many of you even had a grandpa who was willing to even talk to you? I mean, like at all about like anything. How many of you had grandpas, and some of you might have had a grandpa or a grandmother who might have actually taught you something, and you're very fortunate. But many of us, being raised, the father wasn't even in the picture, and the grandparents weren't there, and if they were there, they kind of spoiled you. So it's an interesting world, isn't it? Um, it's an interesting world, and I think that we as a people, and again, especially men, need to start realizing that you have much more potential than you think that you do. You can, and we can, and humanity can change, the world, our culture, our existence. Many great men and men coming together and people coming together. Again, I'm talking about men a lot, and as y'all know, that women have done great things, and women are not have been much more than mothers, but being a mother is also incredibly important, and helping being a part of a family. But how many men speak about you know freedom and justice? I don't hear even lawyers. I mean, people who are supposed to be involved with our legal system. I don't even hear senators talking about justice and freedom, and because many of them either do believe in it or see the opportunity to use this new critical race theory, and they see the opportunity to use Marxism for their own political gains and their own political ends. So there is a disconnect. I, as a man, do not connect with almost anybody um, in politics. There's Ron Paul, who has been a pretty upstanding individual. There's a few people here and there. DeSantis has been doing pretty good lately. There's some people who have really tried to speak out against the establishments, both Republican and Democrat. Um, Tulsi Gabbard seems like she's reasonable and willing to fight against terrible people. And again, some of y'all think I'm extremely conservative. Hey, Mitt Romney's a terrible person. And I think that we could see that very clearly. But one of the people kicking up and possibly even getting some influence is Laura Loomer. And I'm not going to talk about politicians or get into politics, but I do think that men, again, quote unquote, going your own way. I don't think that's not going to change. It can change society if you got enough men involved, but then you would have to come back to the table and negotiate. And especially when the government is on top of you, and then the woman, in regards to power and authority, is on top of you as well. Even if you had enough men who were willing to pull back a large percentage of the population, let's say you had 50% of the population who were not, I mean, not getting married is just the basics. I mean, like not giving women money on OnlyFans and all this, not catering to their whims and dating, not being a free pocketbook. Again, a lot of y'all think that I'm making this stuff up, but women spend 80% of the money in the country as far as spending money goes. So that means that they spend their money and that they have 30% of the men's money. So that's, a lot of that is the married men, which it's actually fairly common for it's pretty unbelievable to me, but it's pretty common for the women to take a charge of the checking accounts and the finances, and the man just works and bring home the money. And then the woman might give the man a little bit of spending money, like he's a child, like, oh, here's a little bit of allowance, if you've been a good boy and you've taken out the trash and you've done what I want you to. I mean, a lot of men live that way. It's frankly unbelievable. It's completely it's completely unmasculine. And that's one of the, again, I bring up some of these things because some of these men out there think that they are the most masculine men, incredibly masculine, extremely, and they think, and they're proud that they have some of the most, or they think they have one of the most attractive women, or I guess just in his eyes, he has the best woman imaginable. And some of these women, even if they weren't overweight and even if they were healthy, uh, they're they're kind of average. Um, and I'm putting it nicely. So sometimes it's much worse. And I'm not, again, men. You got to step up. Again, you have to have not only a higher vision. I mean, again, Red Pill and MGTOW and men in general do need to have higher expectations, more demands upon society, or at least any demands. I mean, men ask for give everything, and like ask for almost nothing, and they feel like it's their duty. I mean, I've literally been told as a man that if we're in, I don't know, if you're in a group meeting or society or a religious function, you know, with a group of people, that if you as a man ask for anything, and this isn't me just like being like, oh, build my house. I mean, and in the past, people worked together, and that was a big community thing. I'm not over here like build me a sidewalk or a fence or something over here that I want. If you suggest something could be better, that would be in your interest or the interest of men in general, you were seen as somebody who's very bad and even weak. Even if you were like the strongest man in the group, if you talk about something that would, you know, be, you know, where the women have to capitulate or work together, maybe come to the table, we have a balance of things. Because a lot, again, I'm not trying to beat up on the churches over here, but a lot of you guys out there go to these churches and they hate men. The men, the people who are quote unquote the leaders. I mean, again, some of these leftists would say they're patriarchal. They beat down on the men and they keep them weak, and they tell the women what they want because the women are giving over the money and they're getting satisfied and told what they want, and they're all emotional and emotionally invested. And you, as a man, you know, again, some people freak out about these churches, but in the West, in the United States, a lot of churches really just make men weak, extremely weak. And with our military, is our military making men masculine? I mean, our CIA and FBI literally has advertisements where they're hiring diversity hires with like rainbow colors, and 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 they show them like having quote unquote fun on the internet. These people are becoming analysts and technicians regarding your data on the internet, and they're happy to target and evaluate. And again, I'm just a small creator on YouTube. I'm not the biggest creator. I'm not the biggest guy. I and I don't know where my life is going to take me because I tried to get hired by bigger businesses. I tried. Oh goodness, I tried. But if you actually do that, if you actually do try to get hired, they know what you've said, even if you were fair or nice or kind. I used to debate people on Facebook about many types of topics, many different types of topics, and I was very fair and a very good person in regards to decency and honesty and being factual and actually supporting humanity, actually supporting human, the quote unquote humane, you know, the humane or the humanity of people. But that will be used against you if you do debate, you know. And that's, again, people wonder why MGTOW exist. You wonder why the red pill exists and men are going their own way. If you do debate feminists, then you certainly can be. And doxing is a real thing, especially with Twitter. There's people out there who make it their whole lifestyle, and they're very proud to get you fired, get you kicked out of your job, make it so that you can't get hired anywhere, or even try to blackmail you. I don't really know of what we can do as a solution. I think men do need to speak out and be willing to be fired. If a company is willing to fire you, and because of the hearsay and the gossip and the lies, and you know, these days when we get further into the future with technology, they could possibly deep fake something about you, or you know, they can put together a quick portfolio and cut and paste, you know, some dialogue that you said to make you sound bad. You know they can, you know, take advantage of you and what you said. So men, you aren't really even allowed to speak. I mean, just look at how men are treated for just saying that they don't want their sons in dresses. I mean, have you seen that recently? There was a man. We'll get back to Memorial Day and what this post is about. I need to improve my. I need to get away from just wanting to talk with you. Instead, I do need to actually show you something on the screen. That's probably, you probably want to see something, don't you? But anyways, we're just talking today. If anybody wants to get involved, but the biggest thing to me, if you're going to take anything away from this, is that I think you do need to speak out. But again, people are trying to hunt you down, even if you are incognito, have an anonymous profile on the internet. There's people who want to take over the internet completely and don't want you to be anonymous, don't want you to have any privacy. And, you know, they would dox you or fire you, and or just like they do today, for anybody who has any type of opinion. And what they want to do is completely control people's opinions and their lifestyle and how they speak. That's why they freaked out about Twitter being bought out by Elon Musk, and that's why they started making the Ministry of Truth. And they saw the backlash that it got, and they're not going to stop at the Ministry of Truth. They're going to make a czar. They're going to make an organization. They're going to have people hired and secret organizations that essentially do the same job as the Ministry of Truth. It just won't be so public. You won't be able to see who's doing it. They won't make speeches, but our CIA and our FBI are certainly doing that. They work directly with Facebook and YouTube and Google and much more. And that's probably one reason why this channel isn't highly successful. I don't want to throw a quick pity party, but maybe I will here for a second. I have tried to find other red pill content, and some of them are decent, and some of them are pickup artists, and a few are actually good. But there's one person's channel in specific, and all they do is watch a video for the first 3 or 4 minutes and then give a little bit of commentary. That's usually decent, but they just watch the video there with you for 3 or 4 minutes. It's to me, it's usually boring. But again, we're all different. And this person has hundreds of thousands of views on each video. He's not particularly articulate. He's not particularly smart, and he doesn't really get to any of the big things that people need to be talking about. So I don't know. Let me know how I could improve my content, improve this channel. Maybe you like the cat. Let me know if you like the cat, if that even mattered to you. But also, let me know how I could improve this channel. Maybe one thing that we can do as men, which is kind of a different strategy that I've been thinking of that nobody else has really been talking about is if people want to silence us for criticizing others or talking about our wants or our needs, why don't we just improve each other? And you might say, well, how are we going to do that? Well, why aren't people who are fired and kicked out of their businesses or afraid to speak, why don't they hire their own business? I mean, hire good men. You know, we're not asking businesses to put a red badge and say that I'm red pill, that we only hire men or something ridiculous like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying, why aren't, or how many of these organizations, I mean, corporations are certainly taken over. We know that corporations are completely taken over. I mean, like Disney now, the whole company's is been completely taken over by identity politics, essentially, you know, new age Marxists. And why, if other people want to have these preferences where they hire or they're exclusionary of certain people, why don't the people who do own these companies not only start organizing but also have preferential treatment to people who are like-minded? And this is, I don't know, some people would say un-American, but you know, you hire people who are like-minded to you. And I don't want to be this way, and I think it's actually the wrong way to be. And again, I've criticized college professors who have taught, and I was in one of those classes where we were taught to not only not hire certain people, but to target and fire people who, you know, just wanted to get the job done, who wanted to be efficient, but, you know, maybe they didn't want to go to a party, maybe they didn't want to, you know, think about, you know, after they get home, think about the product or the company and figure out how to improve the company. You know, maybe they weren't willing to work extra hours or capitulate or move around their hours like their owner wanted to. I mean, these businesses, sometimes people say it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. I mean, you as a worker have absolutely no power. And the funny thing is, I'm not encouraging men to unionize. Unions are their own sort of problem. Unions are a whole different world of problem that we could make a video about. But how are we going to fix these problems? I think that one way that we could fix these problems is if men came together and, hired like-minded people. And this kind of happens one way or another. And the trade jobs, people are in the trades are probably much more quote-unquote base or quote-unquote much more reasonable people probably on average. But what about, you using your influence to try to, help men or help good people in general? I think if we stay silent, I think we can clearly see that these type of agendas where we were lied to and told that certain things were ideologically good but were completely used against us, being like the quote-unquote silent majority. Some people still wear that like a badge of honor, being the quote-unquote silent majority, where all they have to do is change that majority, and then you really don't have that privilege or that methodology of not really arguing or discussing anything. It's not like you can just ignore these problems. Ignoring these problems and not speaking out against them is what got us into a lot of these problems. So, I think that you as a man, you do need to choose your battles. You do need to be smart about what you argue about, what you say, and how things can be used against you. But I think that you need to figure a way to express that your intention. And again, if we're going to talk about our ancestors in Memorial Day, they're certainly not happy with America. They're certainly not happy with us. They're probably not happy with you. I mean, when's the last time you fought for freedom or tried to improve something that was innocent as creating a new species of a lemon tree, or like something that would impact or improve the life of your life and those around you. Many of you are satisfied to go to college and then work a dead-end job supporting a corporation that's soulless and heartless, and you know tries and essentially likes to keep people dumb and controlled. I mean, are you going to get out of it? Are you going to speak out against it? Are you going to try to help other people? And again, it's we have to start producing things. Yeah, and also with your buying habits, you need to start buying things that are actually made by genuine, real people, people with heart, people with the intentions to do good, higher quality products. A lot of these brands that you trust, a lot of these things that you think are decent, are highly regulated, pretty darn unhealthy, or not that good of quality. And that's possibly the greatest power that we have, is our purchasing power of what we buy and what we don't buy. If the real power of MGTOW is not just of MGTOW or whatever they want to call themselves, would not be just distancing themselves and saying no. And again, like I've encouraged men being picky, a little bit more picky with who they date and what they don't date. That's not going to do much. The biggest thing is finance and the power of your purchase and the power of your money. If MGTOW really want to change society, they really need to start speaking and fighting and opposing taxes. Taxes and us speaking up about freedoms is what made us rebel with the Declaration of Independence against Britain. I mean, there was lots of things that went into it. The America, or however you want to call it, Indian War, and that they put all that burden of debt upon the United States, and there's many other things. I mean, there's like 20 fairly big things, but one of them that infuriated and every person could feel was taxes and the regulation of certain goods, like with the Dutch tea and all that, cheap, tea that people wanted and people drank every day. Products and goods that were being kind of taken away from you. And maybe that gets you thinking. And it might actually get you thinking that the mafia maybe weren't that bad. Yeah, they were bad. They were bad. But at least they were willing to fight against taxes in a funny way. Anyways, I'm not here trying to encourage MGTOW to become the mafia. I'm trying to encourage you to speak up against taxes, against regulation, against powers, and people who clearly oppress you and that clearly lie to you. And again, men have been wronged, have been awfully wronged, but the reason why we got to this, society really started to collapse and all this really went downhill was really, it started before that, but with the feminist movement, it was because men just capitulated. Men gave in to the demands, and women also weren't challenged with their ideas. the 40 or 50 years ago, men not only didn't, in general, didn't disagree or didn't speak out against, but openly supported, these women's agendas and programs as they, you know, proposed or supported bigger businesses. They took over these businesses. They used these businesses to influence and change societies, and they think it's your responsibility to, make other countries wealthier, but they don't think about the consequences. They think about all, women in general think about feel good things that sound good on paper, but really don't improve the world in general. It would be one thing if we sacrificed our infrastructure and our companies and our production and our factories and we handed them over essentially to foreign countries like we have. It'd be one thing if those countries were loyal to us or they had some responsibility and obligations, to the United States or, and, in regards to taxes and other things as well. But we don't, we don't hold people accountable. We don't nurture, that kind of relationship and that friendship. And again, I might be sounding like Trump, but some of the stuff he got around and tried to tell people about was true. America has and now again kind of for decades was essentially being, leached out. They're essentially, slowly but surely, America was losing more than it was gaining. Not getting fair trades, not getting fair deals, not getting fair exchanges, and then we ship all of our infrastructure and our manufacturing and all of our jobs to foreign countries, and then we buy those products in foreign countries and further support and develop other countries. These countries don't have loyalty to us in that way because we put tons of production in Japan and Taiwan and some of these other countries. I some of them, Japan does kind of like us, but in general, there's not an obligation, and men have given or just capitulated far too much. They've just given up too much. How many of you men, you can't even get to a position of affluence or power or a corporate job or, you can't even get to that place unless you make your own business and take a lot of risks, and even then they'd fight against you. But if you did want to get that corporate job, get that position, all this, you have to capitulate to them. And you have to be the way they want you to be. And, imagine if men made those businesses, and if they, when they went through somebody's resume, good men, fair men, and they look through your resume, and then that they're doing all kinds of background checks and all kinds of research, and they figure out that you have a Twitter profile where you support the current thing, that you're politically active, and you've supported violence from certain groups, a three-letter word group. They figured out that you believe in critical race theory, that you want men or little boys in dresses, that you think that men need to be given drugs to change their bodies so they're less masculine, that you believe in transgenderism. Again, they have the rights to be what they want, but it's another thing for you to force people's speech regarding it. I hope that makes sense. Of course, somebody can be transgender, whatever, or, but, people trying to, force and control people's speech. If you looked at somebody's resume and their online profile and all this and figured out if that they spoke against the Second Amendment or gun rights and freedom, imagine if people were being excluded on the other side. You see where I'm getting at? That's ultimately kind of what this video is about. Imagine if American companies with American principles actually hired and fired according to them. And I don't, some people would say, oh, you're making things political and you're wanting people, to be excluded, and you're trying to fire people, and hurt people. I mean, what about all these companies and corporations that would fire you if you're conservative or American-minded or believe in free speech or speak out against, all these things? I mean, everything that, or one of the many things, or 10 or 20 big things that have been going on recently. I mean, they fire you and they exclude you, and you don't even speak against it. You don't even mention it. And because it's so rare for somebody like me or anybody to speak out against, like, not being hired or being fired and, being pushed out of society, some people don't even believe it exists because they've never experienced anybody speaking about it or talking about it in that way. Imagine if you as a man or you as a person decided, to start talking about that. And that's one reason they want to control the internet, because I'm sure that y'all are very aware, there's something called a narrative. And that's essentially like a framework. It's almost like science with a theory. It's where but there's a bunch of evidence and momentum, and people get emotionally involved, where they continue to push an idea forward, and they look for and they find evidences to support a narrative and a way of thinking and a way of speaking. Imagine if you as a man or the quote unquote red pill people started, we do have certain things that could be considered narratives, but imagine if, we people in general, maybe in society, or you, when somebody brought something up, you had certain ideas that, that were fairly common ways of articulating or discussing, but also ways of, also disagreeing with them. Imagine that. Imagine that. That, I think that narratives they can be powerful or influential, but one reason they're used is because the people don't have to critically think. So I do think that narratives kind of generally speaking are kind of being taken advantage of. The people who don't have good critical thinking skills and can get emotionally invested can speak on the narrative and promote the narrative, and then they act or believe that they truly understand the issue at large when they don't really understand the issue. But if you try to discuss the nuances or the details or any type of aspect of that or that's involved with this, then they stereotype you, or they throw the labels at you. So, what am I getting at? What am I even talking about? What I'm saying is that, men need to be willing to speak. I know that many of you don't want to lose your job. I know that many of you don't want to lose your friends or your family. But, some of you are going to have to be willing to take the hard punches. And the easiest thing, and one of the most non-controversial things, well, that's not really controversial, but they make it out to be, is, distancing yourself. Quote unquote, going your own way, avoiding the problems and the issues. There's family members who you might just want to avoid. It'd probably be easier just to avoid them. You have experiences and people, and you might be invited to family reunions where you know that they gossip and try to figure things out about you, and you know, they share your personal information with their friends and the people they know. One of the most shocking ones was, you know, I never even got to go outdoors or hunting much of it all, but the word got around that, you know, I could, and that one time I got a nice deer, and then they they stereotype you, especially these city people. They don't know what it's like to, you know, with their lifestyle, to live like you do. And I've made this point before with some people, but this might be the first time you've ever heard it. Imagine if you are a small town, country, or however you want to say it. You live in a small place, not a lot of people. You're more likely to see a bear or a moose or a gazelle. I don't know where you live, a crocodile, a scorpion, whatever it is. You're more likely to see something that's considered less common, that's an animal or a bug or something, than you are to see another person. Or just a small town, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever. Imagine if you, that type of person who has your types of beliefs, imagine if you went to a city and demanded and acted like everybody was immoral if they didn't live up to your expectations in regards to, you know, what you can you know, carry on your side, what you can do in public, how you can speak, um, you know, how the city should be run, if it should be run at all, your opinions on taxes. And I'm not going to get into the state aspect or the state debate, because that's an aspect of this that I've gone over, and I think that a lot of people do need to understand state versus federal, and city versus country. But what I'm talking about is that, you know, people are not willing to empathize and understand other people's points of view. Everybody tries to understand, rationalize, protect, comfort, just about, you know, all the quote good, the quote unquote, you know, good or quote unquote minority types. But do you see them trying to understand or care or listen to anything that men have to capitulate? Or, I mean, anything that they have to say? You know, men have to capitulate just to be understood. You know, if you ever heard of kick them while they're down, men, even if they're in pain and crying and have a very sad story to tell, you know, not only is there that expectation of quote unquote traditionalism in the men, again, the men who think that they're really masculine would insult you, but also these people who are supposed to care about the downtrodden and the hurt and the disadvantaged also don't care about you. I mean, they can't even, they don't even have an ounce of gratitude for the men, especially the straight men, especially the straight, you know, men who are considered the evil incarnate, you know, the religious and or, you know, American minded, freedom minded men. These types of men are the ones who built their houses, built their electricity. They're the ones who built the technologies, the roads, and everything else, and they continue to. Did you ever hear any gratitude? No. And in fact, they're going to replace you and act as if you never existed, and they don't want you to ever exist, and they will rewrite history. You know, who knows what inventions will be developed in the future? Who knows what will be, you know, what we will see and what we experience if, you know, if we can get past this dark time in history. But I think, and I think it's very clear that these people have every intention to wipe history clean of the quote unquote white people who developed everything from your cell phone to your telephone to electricity, to almost everything that's, that you've experienced. And also with the critical race theory type people, I mean, that includes most Europeans, and that goes, I mean, it goes way back, like the Greeks and everything, to these types of people. So if these types of people, if they can write out like 1,000 years or 500 years of the people who molded and developed and made us, made the world a better place and successful, if they can do that, have that they can have no gratitude for you, that they don't care about who you are. I think that they're, I think that they're willing to do that and do much worse. I think that I think you as men could maybe even start asking for a little bit of gratitude. you know, if you ever have a discussion, if you ever do have a risky discussion with these types of people, they want to act like feminism is for men and that there's an advantage. There's some kind of advantage for men out of feminism. What advantage is there? I've listened, and y'all might think that I don't listen, but I do. I listen to lots of these people, and I listen to their viewpoints and their thoughts. And again, they can say these trite little sayings and these narratives, and they can't even explain themselves in the slightest. I mean, tell me one thing, one advantage that feminism has brought to men. I mean, besides tearing down the family unit, so the really rich and successful men can have, have the pick of the litter, as they say, or have all the women, or have harems or something. If you consider that an advantage for men in general, I mean, but that's something that they would think is a problem, so they wouldn't even say that's an advantage. America is done for. Tampa Supreme. Just saw your comment there. Thank you for commenting. I have a similar feeling. I don't want to get too, some people consider quote unquote political, but after this election, and that we saw clear as day, that these people with the UN and the New World Order and the Great Reset and the WHO, these types of people were rigging elections all across the world. It wasn't just the USA, and people really didn't talk about it, and that's why I'm saying that you can try to start talking about these issues, but it's almost too late. It's very worrisome, but I'm trying to be hopeful and optimistic, because that's one reason they hate local elections so much, is because they know, I mean, there's only a certain amount of people in a certain area. They probably are more likely to know who's their local representative, or the person that they're going to actually elect. They also can hold these people locally a little bit more accountable. And again, that's one reason that states and state powers and mayors and governors and those kinds of things were supposed to have the majority of the power. But again, that's a whole nother video discussion of state versus federal power. But with America being done for and the West being done for, if it all does crumble, if it all does come down, and I'm not blaming the MGTOW red pill people. I want to be very clear. Y'all are some of the good ones. But I do think that a lot of y'all threw in the towel possibly a little bit early. I don't think... I wasn't around when the quote-unquote men's rights movement did exist. I think it was supposedly like the 80s, and I hear, and from what I can read, there's not a lot of information on the internet. They allowed some women, a couple women, to speak for them, and then it all went downhill, and men just capitulated, and they lost their momentum, and maybe the women didn't represent them well. I'm not really sure. All I know is that I've never seen on the internet or anywhere where men are actually really opposing these feminists. I mean, there's a few debates. There's a famous one with Jordan Peterson where he debates a feminist, and you can expose these people as much as you want. You know, that woman, if you look up that video, you can look it up. You could probably easily find it on YouTube. Jordan Peterson versus feminist, or Jordan Peterson debates a feminist. And you can see how foolish these are. And there were actually, you know, YouTube slowed them down or kind of shut them down, but there were some really big channels, and they used to just show you footage. No editing, no commentary, no nothing. And you just saw footage of these mothers and single mothers and people, and they were just destructive. I mean, extremely destructive. Um, where, I mean, they did everything from, you know, hurting children to stealing, to just belligerent people. And I mean, some of it's unbelievable. You know, if y'all go back and watch some of the videos from Kevin Samuels, there were a couple of those videos that were frankly unbelievable to me. Not because Kevin Samuels was a problem. Y'all know that I don't think that. It's because these women can laugh and smirk and joke and even insult somebody who is high status, somebody who's trying to help family, who's trying to help them understand, somebody who's actually, you know, far more intelligent than them. They have the audacity to like mock them and try these little word games. These word games. And that's really what's happening a lot in society. It's word games. It's narrative. And you know, it takes a lot of energy, and it's kind of a waste of energy to play these games. But again, there's different forms of power, and men historically worked with their hands. They worked with their intelligence, and they created things, often physical things. Yeah, there were men who did art, and they wrote books and all kinds of things. But men in general were creating things. That there's different types of power. There's, you know, strength, and there's power of like creation and infrastructure and skill like that. But there's also skills. There's social power. And that, again, when I was talking about the silent majority and influence, and I still meet these people and see these people, I'm surrounded by quite a few of them who still think that we should stay silent regarding all of this, that all these problems, that we should just keep our heads in the sand. We shouldn't say anything. You know, no matter how much men are wronged, and I'm not a Christian, but a lot of people around here are Christian, and no matter how, you know, no matter in the future how Christians are wronged, and many other aspects of things, you don't fight, you know, against Hollywood. You don't speak out on social platforms. But that's the thing. Again, they've taken over all these algorithms, and you can only fight so much. They recently have, you know, they targeted memes before. About a year ago, they started controlling and trying to regulate memes, and they started actually trying to make their own memes. And memes, kind of in general, have started slowing down. They're still a big thing, but a lot of people on the internet don't even understand why memes really existed and why memes are so powerful. It's because they're able to share a message in a very simple way that shows contradictions, that shows hypocrisy a lot of the times, and irony. And also, it's you know, it doesn't use words. It doesn't use something that a computer algorithm can easily understand, that where they can easily, you know, control and manipulate and stop something like that. And it's kind of sad. It's entertaining, but it's also kind of sad that the last few ways that Western culture and good people had, one of the last things that we ever tried to use, was memes to try to influence things. And, you know, memes were fun, and memes are still fun. But you got to do a lot more than memes. And the thing is, I like memes, but I don't know how many people. I know that there's millions of people who do. I know that there's a lot of people who do, but I don't see the upcoming generations using memes or caring about memes. I don't see the Gen Zs. I don't see the TikTokers. I don't see the Twitchers. I don't see any of them ever discuss or mention memes. So I'm not over here trying to say that memes are not important, or I'm not trying to say that they're weak or not effective. I mean, the FBI has acknowledged that they're powerful and that they want to stop them. I mean, they're certainly influential. But what I'm trying to say is that men and people in general do need to try to have some influence. I mean, you're still. I mean, it's you still have we still have opportunities to fix this. We can still fix this, and maybe I'm just a die hard where I just can't give this up. And some of y'all who are MGTOW or maybe somewhat red pilled might think that I'm just crazy or might think that I'm new to all of this. I've been watching and listening to all kinds of different people. Uh, you know, many different types of MGTOW or red pill and purple pill, and I listen to the debates and the discussions of feminists and all kinds of people, and I've been doing it for years. It's like it's like a second education for me, and I think that you do, as a man, need to figure out a way to express yourself. Essentially, what I'm getting to. Again, you might not want to try Twitch. You might probably get kicked off of Twitch. I'm not saying get on TikTok. I'm not saying get on YouTube and you have to do these things. What I'm trying to say is you need to find a way to express yourself. And if you have a story to tell, if you have an experience, I think that you need to express that. There are hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, maybe millions of men out there who have gone through divorce, and nobody talks about the terrible experiences these divorced men have gone through. Let me try to see if I can. I'll remove that if I can. Anyways, I think that men need to, try to find a way to express themselves, and I think that you can express yourself. And I think that it's your responsibility to express yourself, because you got to be true to yourself and find a way of expression. You can do that through multiple ways if you want to, and you don't have to. You don't have to oppose or fight. And I think that you can. Let me see. I'm trying to get. I want to wrap up my thoughts, and I'm getting rid of this person who's spamming. So, anyways, some big spammer over here trying to hurt my channel. So let me see if I can't get back to where we're supposed to be. Okay, I think that hopefully we're back. Okay, I think that we are. My friends, I think that too many of you men who are quote unquote red pill or quote unquote MGTOW, and I am a guy who kind of speaks from the heart and kind of talks about some tough things because I have healing to go through. And I think that you have healing, and a lot of people in this area have healing to go through. I mean, I haven't even really gone through a divorce like y'all have. I can't imagine the heartache and being separated, and that kid being used against you and being manipulated and brainwashed by, in public schools, and also before that, in these daycares. I can't even imagine the heartache that y'all are experiencing. But I think that we need to have an open dialogue of this. And I think, again, that we as men need to start talking about some of these core or key issues and get them out there so that the average man starts actually having those ideas in their head, and that they're also encouraged. You can be picky. You don't have to date a woman. You don't have to marry a woman. You don't have to go for a woman if she doesn't have similar principles than you. And it might be hard to find a decent woman who doesn't believe in, all these the current important thing, the best, what the news tells them to believe in the Hollywood movies. And a lot of people I've openly spoken about to people that I don't think the public school should exist, and people just walk away from you. A lot of people will just walk away from you, and openly act like you don't exist anymore. You're just a terrible person. And a lot of them don't even understand why you might say that. A lot of people, these days, don't understand why you might even disagree or say that public schools shouldn't exist, because they actually don't understand an American-minded person. This is not quote unquote conservative. They don't even understand the actual debate. They literally don't. But it's something so backwards to them. It's so strange against their point of view, if you can even call it a point of view, because they don't even see or often understand what they even believe. That, if you start speaking out against this, how many men out there could you save or help? Even if you got opposed, imagine if you were able to influence just one man. One man, called off a wedding to a woman who is clearly just going to divorce him, and again, this mother was going to be a single mother, and then stop, something that would cause generations of harm, where that kid would be put in daycare, and then public schools, and watch Disney and junk like that, and Hollywood movies, and then go to college, and then be trained to hate capitalism, and also try to, and then go work for one of these big corporations and try to tear apart the USA. Imagine if you as a man were able to reach one of these men, these normal men, or blue pill men, or these men who are quote unquote asleep. Imagine if you were able to help them to just, they might still think you were crazy. But imagine if you were able to just help one of them, be a little bit cautious. Maybe marry if they still have to get married, which in today with the legal system, you're just crazy if you do, even if you're marrying somebody who's really religious or whatever. The laws are stacked against you heavily. Everything's against you, and you're literally, literally playing Russian roulette. You put that round in that revolver, and that's what you're doing with marriage, literally. And you probably have better odds of surviving Russian roulette than divorce. You probably have better odds, because what, in a revolver there's six shot, and what does that make your chances out to be? Something like 15. I forget the math. It's like 16, 17.5%. The divorce rate is 50%, and if you are in California, it's 70, and in some areas in California it's like 80% rate of divorce. In Nevada, Las Vegas city area, it's like 70 to 80 as well. They have that quick marriage kind of thing where people just, they give you a marriage certificate like through the drive-through type of thing. So that's a little bit of a different story, but okay. Anyways, my final thoughts with this Memorial Day is that you as a man might not be out there fighting, risking your life, where you're fighting somebody physically. Some of you out there are, but this is kind of a messed up game where the U.S. government has created these cartels in Mexico. We also left all of our weapons and guns, and people want to freak out about military grade this and military grade that. But we left enough weapons to make them an army stronger than many nations, like even France. It's like, and we did that in the Middle East, and we created, all these forces. And sitting down, if you have a critical mind, you have to think to yourself, who did this? who is accountable for this, and why haven't we made any efforts to stop it? Why'd we even allow it to happen in the first place? You know, we want to freak out about a shooting, which, if it was real, or we don't know, on your news, you don't know what's real or not, like the Sandy Hook thing and all that. Also, even if it was real, then there's a manifesto supposedly that comes out, and then they try to tear down meme culture, which again is why I mentioned meme culture again. They try to destroy meme culture. They try to wrap in anybody who knows about the Great Reset, and also the you know, what they're doing with, you know, kicking, you know, white people out of society and all this. And again, I'm not over here saying that whites are the best or hoorah or whatever. Yeah, Tampa. Yep. Higher. I said, yeah. I'm not over here saying or doing all of that, because the same problem is going to happen in the future. You know, if they can have one race or one group of people fight against each other, and it doesn't matter who's on top. If the bankers are still on top, if you know, all these lawyers and the politicians and the people on the government, the people who control the taxes, the money supply, the inflation, if all these people are still on the top, it doesn't matter if you've won or been defeated really much at all. It doesn't. So the thing is, I don't want you to give up, and I don't want you to lose hope that that you can accomplish many things. And again, it might not be the way that you envisioned it. You know, as a kid, I know that I've been on here for a while, and I got to wrap this up. But as a kid, I had grand visions of making multiple companies and making the world a better place and making the best olive oil in the world and some of these funny things. I mean, I had goals and I had plans to do all these types of things. And I didn't know what the world was like. I was highly uneducated. I didn't have access to the internet much as a kid. I didn't get to touch the internet until I was 13. I didn't have like-minded people who would discuss anything with me. I was told to accept what was around me. I was told not to question, not to critique, and the old support, or the old obey your authority figure. So whoever your teacher is, your college professor, whoever your mayor is, somehow these people are smarter than you. Somehow these people are better than you. Somehow these people know what's best for you, and you best not think or criticize or, you know, add a little 2 cents to it, because you have some thoughts that might, you know, could improve things or maybe make things better. No, I was told that to not do, you know, not to think for myself. And I was raised in somewhere that was so poor that most people around here, you know, as a man, you really only had three options. Three options. And this is in the United States. Some people, y'all might think I'm crazy. Again, some of y'all have accused me that you're just making it up. You're just making it up. I'm not making this up. You only had three options. You could go into oil drilling to work on the oil rigs. Extremely dangerous. High risk, high reward. You could die. It's also, you know, you work for short periods of time, so you do get paid a lot, but the hours aren't really consistent. You could go into the military. That was an option as well. Or you could go into welding. And again, it's luck of the draw with welding if they like you or not. But if you were able to get into the welding jobs, that was a sweet thing if you could get into the welding jobs. And there's literally like no factories in this entire state. There's some lumber mills. There's some paper production in the distance to about a state away, a couple hours away. There's like some Tyson chicken farms, but I don't think that they hire people, and that I mean, unless you're somebody who's higher up in managing it or doing marketing or something funny, I mean, they're not hiring a lot of just regular people that and pay and that that pays well. So what I'm trying to say is that you as a man need to find ways to not only support yourself but also try to support the ideas that you like and the things that you believe in, because that I think is going to make a lot more of you more happy and that you can live authentically. And that's not easy because, again, when I was raised as a kid, I had all these ideas. I talked about freedom. I thought about freedom, and I loved a lot of these things. And some people have said I need to become a politician. Maybe I should become a politician because I can think and I can articulate, and I have, you know, I can debate much better than most anybody that I've just about ever met. And so again, there's very few of these politicians that are decent, but a lot of the times you have to be born into an affluential family and you have to have millions to get elected or to get into a position. And I don't really care to put myself in that much publicity, and I don't really want the fame, but I would be willing to like debate and fight. But again, I don't. I mean, how could I even become like a senator or whatever? Because I'm not even willing to follow a lot of these rules that they make. Because some of these rules and some of the things, the ways that they've messed up our government, I wouldn't even be able to show up. I'm not going to say Madame Speaker. I'm not going to address that. You're a speaker. If you're a man or a woman, you're a speaker. You're not a madame because you're the head. You're the head speaker, the speaker of the house. You're not some proxy president like Nancy Pelosi has tried to make herself to be. I'm sorry. I'm not going to address you as Madame, the Madame. And that's just one thing of many. That's just one of the many small things that would be a big problem. If in regards to me trying to do anything, and I've jumped through tons of hoops just for college. I mean, I mean, the things you have to do to get through and do college and do these classes and listen to these professors, and my goodness, it's absolutely ridiculous. I should write a book about it. But guys, I'm gonna wrap it up here. I hope that I gave you some food for thought. Please try to help your friends or family, a nephew, somebody who around you who has no guidance, who doesn't have a father figure, where his dad, has been kicked out of the house. His father was divorced. His father died early, or something like this. Try to help men actually understand decent principles. Decent principles. You know, some basic ones. You don't even have to get into the morals if you don't want, of trust, or honesty, or honor, or responsibility. You don't even have to get into any of that. But at least tell them about the dangers, the big dangers that are around them. So I'm gonna wrap this up. This was really fun to try this with this new avatar for the first time. I hope that y'all enjoyed this. I'm gonna try to articulate my videos a little bit more straight to the point. If I can get more funding, maybe I can figure out a way to improve this, where I can have a better avatar, and maybe do this more full time. Let me know if I should do more of a podcast. Probably what I should do, but because that's what I don't know, I like to do more. I can show y'all lots of videos and discuss things, but anyways, my friends, I think I've said enough. I think I've said too much. You men out there, live authentically. If you feel like you are limited or frustrated, or that you don't have the options around you, yeah, video games are fun. Yeah, video games, yeah, they're fun and things like that. But find a way where you can find enjoyment. And it can be a simple thing. I'm not saying buy the newest car. I'm not saying, go out there and hire some escort, which are all options. But what I'm saying is find a way where you can authentically build something that is valuable and that helps people. And then have some form of control and use that control that you do have, the influence or the affluence or the power that you do have, for good. Again, you don't have to go as far as an extreme as possibly excluding leftists, but that would be very fun, and I think that does need to happen. And all these, some of these companies are pulling back. They're not against. They still support a lot of leftist, quote unquote, leftist things. They're not even neutral, but they're pulling back. They're not going as far, or they're not going as fast with the momentum, because they're seeing that the go woke, go broke thing is kind of real. They're kind of seeing that, and they're being hurt more than ever. They're losing their fans. The people they say that that they make lies about, that the majority of fans are that they're toxic or that they're minority, like with Star Wars and Star Trek and everything else. These companies are beginning to realize that, these people that we hired and these people that are supposed to be, making this company better and supposed to be serving the fans, and we trusted them, and they said that this will be a fad, or these quote unquote minority of fans or these vocal people will give up, or they're not really that important, or that the rising generations will also be leftist, because that's the way our society's going, with all of this gender and race type of ideology and obsession with race and identity. They're beginning to realize that it's not working out so well. It's not really working out, is it? Nah, it's not working out. So what if men, the quote unquote red pill men, actually stepped up and actually started talking about that? Hey, we have an alternative. We have a solution. We were here the whole time, but you wouldn't listen to us. Oh, why don't you give us a shot? Why don't you give us a shot? Because you didn't give us a shot. You ignored us. You fired us. You pushed us out. You didn't even hire us to begin with. And the men who, were American-minded or freedom-minded, or might have donated to a certain person, or voted a certain way, you were outcasted. Completely. And again, we had a whole generation of people who fought for, these types of rights. Why don't we have civil law cases? It's with this civil law, with society, it's supposed to be illegal to fire somebody based on, race and gender and and cultural type of things. If they're doing the job, if they're capable and willing and good, why haven't have there been real class action lawsuits? Is it because men have just given up and they never tried, or were they shut down? Because I did not hear or never heard about many of these, even the people who were fired. I didn't hear. I heard that one or two of them were going to sue, but I never saw the results of those where they actually fought back. I never saw them. What were the results? I know that our country's messed up. They're willing to make fake courts, fake legal systems, fake special hearings, and tear apart how our country and that our law actually works. They're most certainly willing to throw out a case or ignore that you were wrongfully terminated from your job, and that people will no longer hire you. They don't care about you. They don't care about that. So, you as a man have to to figure out what you want to do with your life. Again, I know that many of you out there are quote unquote MGTOW or quote unquote red pill, and that you're, it's just too much stress. It's just too much effort, and I understand. I still am seeking peace and a sense of serenity. I truly distance myself from the problems and the people who cause the problems as much as possible. But I still try to be aware and pay attention to them, as painful as it is, as narcissistic as these people is, and as destructive as these people are. Not as they can be, but they actually are. They extremely destructive. But let me know what I can do about this channel. Let me know if this channel was helpful. Let me know if you think that lives are the best way to go about this with this presentation. And I'll see you soon, my friends. This is the Daddy Knows Best channel. Let me know if you liked my new avatar. And I will see you soon. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share the video, and tell a friend. You are very welcome here, and I hope that I gave some food for thought. That's what these are about, food for thought. And of course, I keep saying it, but I'm going to make some videos that are more straight to the point. But I think that we need a whole discussion, and I like these discussion format videos. Let me know if you like them. So.